platform, so hopefully some people will be there too. Hi, Ursula.
Hello.
How are you today?
I am doing really well, and I'm really excited about today's topic.
Amazing. Why don't you?
How
I
are
am
you?
also. I'm good. Why don't you go ahead and tell us what today's topic is?
Yeah, so last week, for anybody just joining us that's new, we had our first show, and we started off with the topic, the destruction of the temple, which was all about how we become disconnected from spirit and the divine feminine and the feminine in general. And we talked a lot about the uh, desecration of the Virgo archetype and all kinds of really cool things. So this is a continuation of that topic, as we figured it would be important to share with people how to reconstruct or to resurrect the temple.
I
So
love
that
it.
is what today's topic is. And yeah, so when we were talking about today's topic, we were discussing, since we're so close to Halloween, how to get back to the original rituals and ceremonies and observances that were more in tune with Mother Earth.
Yes.
So,
Well, you
yeah.
just said the key word there, which I love, which is ritual. So I propose, since the reconstruction of the temple is something that we actually need to not only tune into, but we need to ritualize the work. I propose to have a little ritual opening for our this space in which we discuss intuitive practices and ways that people can start to reacquaint themselves wherever they're at in their life. And I'm going to do that I'm going to start that first, but I'm going to light a little incense. I have this Palo Santo incense
Oh,
here.
I love Palo
Um,
Santo.
I also love Palo Santo. It's not a stick. It's actually from this brand called Tribal Soul. Not a sponsor. Not yet, though. Feel free to reach out. But the lighting of incense is one fire, smoke. It is a way to cleanse a space. It's a way to move the energy around. Some of the best things that you can do to move the energy in and through yourself, through a space, through a thought process in a business is to actually go ahead and open it up with a little cleansing and a movement of the actual energy, as well as something that has sound. Hold on, I know that I have it here somewhere. I have a little ritual bell that is also a signification that we are opening the space and the circle as a ritual, a safe space, a hallowed ground, and that we are exiting wherever we were before for the purpose of forming this new circle, this new space, so that we can communicate and open ourselves up, not just to each other, but also to ancestors, guides, only people, energies, that are in the highest alignment with Creator, with ourselves. And so this is the space. And now we have opened the ritual, and we will close the ritual before we leave so that we know where it is that it starts and where it began, which, by the way, is one of the best ways that you can start to implement having conscious boundaries, conscious beginnings and endings of things, knowing that it's not fully the end. It's something that can be readdressed. But it's something that once you start to, I mean, I just think of like how many awkward calls people are on. It used to be very obvious when a meeting is over and stuff like that. But now that we are in a virtual space so much of the time, even just people in relating to each other. I know I guess our last episode was just after that new moon in Libra. But I know that one of my favorite astrologers, Rasalila, was around this time last year talking about how embarrassingly bad our lack of rituals not only bleeds through into so many different ways, but one of the most uncomfortable things that it creates in terms of relationships and relating is that because our society is so focused on coming together about things that we don't designate a way to gracefully and consciously separate and have a separation ritual so that we can go back onto our own individual cycles, our own individual journeys and path, and know that our two individuals will reconnect and re-intersect with one another and share that, shared relational space again. But even just ritualizing that, I mean, the kiss goodbye, when one person goes to work, and having these rituals, the more consciously that you do them, especially if it's a daily practice, daily ritual, very Virgoan, is a way to be comfortable, like reset to like, oh my gosh, I enjoyed every moment right through, our goodbyes, which are a temporary goodbye. And now I get to fully invest and fully embody and fully show up for myself and my own individual, whatever I'm going into to do as on my own individual timeline, my own individual journey. So that is just it seems small, but I want our audience to know and to practice that there is nothing too small to ritualize and to bring consciousness into. And that is really the difference between ritual and habit. A habit is something that you can do by rote. It's something that you're doing unconsciously, whereas ritual is something that you are doing very consciously, with full intention. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It's something that it becomes more perfect as you do it over, as you repeat the process and see what it is that you need.
Yes, I totally agree with that. And I'm so glad that you used the word intention, because that is so important to everything that you just brought into the space, as far as the opening, the closing, even just certain smells at this point I associate with cleansing a space, like Palo Santo. Like I'll choose either white sage or Palo Santo for cleansing. And I choose either one. There's reasons behind that. So even just, as far as cleansing a space, like we were just talking about, like energetically, you just kind of go through your day without the separation, like you were saying, and this blending of energies at all times. And there's no those boundaries between so many things, because that's just the way that we've been conditioned to live through our days.
Right.
So even just like coming home from the grocery store and taking a little twirl in some kind of sacred smoke or some kind of incense or something like that. And then you just build that association between the method that you're using, the aroma that you're using. And then it just becomes this whole, other thing, like the synergy of the process, the aroma, the material. And then it can have so much more meaning. Just a simple little thing, like it can take 2 minutes and, you've done it. And then now you're in your, in your own space, and that defining line has been set and that energy has been cleansed.
Yes. And removing the energies that you may have absorbed when you were outside and, in a very unconscious energy or pollutants. I mean, I live in New York City. I take my shoes off at the door. I didn't do this as much when I lived elsewhere. I am very conscious about keeping what is outside and what is inside my house inside, and making sure that there is a practice of, ritualizing that. I don't wear street clothes on the bed. You know what I'm saying? And I was even just watching something where someone had moved to, I can't remember if they had moved to China. I think they moved to China. But they may have moved to Japan, but wherever it was, they were like, it was like, these are the top things that I never, that I thought was weird when I first moved here. And now I can't like undo it. And one of them was them coming from the Western world, that they would always get up and shower in the morning, but they wouldn't shower before they went to bed. And something in the country that they were living in was like, people were like, no, you need to cleanse yourself before you go to bed. That's your restorative space. Like, why would you do that? And so they're like, oh, now we can't undo it. Now we're like, ew, it's gross. Like I haven't like rinsed off the day, I haven't rinsed off whatever before I go into my bed, which is like what you want to have, the cleanest, most comforting, warm, restorative, place. So I was like, yeah, wash off that day. Why do you want to bring it into your sleep space when you're like the most vulnerable,
Exactly.
So it's so funny, just like, you know, just like this is why we really the ritualizing getting together, not just, you know, with say your family of origin and stuff like that, and even discussing why we do the things that we do, but also, you know, getting exposing yourself to, not exposing yourself, like don't get put on a list, but getting familiar with other people of other practices and finding out the why behind things, because that is essentially what the divine feminine gives to the divine masculine. It gives the why behind things, you know? Like
Mhm.
when I think of Mars energy, right? We're in Pluto season. Mars and Mercury have had this, you know, crazy, you know, they've just been like this. And I feel like we're really feeling the effects of it, especially as Mercury is like slowing down to go retrograde, that you know, the intellect wanting to, I almost feel like there's a danger here, but like, you know, when I'm thinking of the classic, you know, masculine, feminine in astrology, the Venus having, you know, these are the values that I want, and dictating them to Mars, and Mars is like, okay, this is how I'm going to get it, you know.
Mhm.
This is that's the why and the what, you know. Venus is giving you the why and the what, and the Mars is giving you the who and the how, you know. Um,
Exactly.
and so yeah, getting interested in the whys of things. Why do we, you know, why do we have, why are we celebrating this? Why do we not celebrate this? Why do we say grace before meals? Why do we not?
Well, you have a good question, and we can segue into the how.
Yeah.
So,
Oh,
yeah.
Jay Wynn says, but how is all that affecting you? How is all, could you be more, how is the lack of knowledge behind the why? How is performing unconscious habits as opposed to conscious rituals in your daily life affecting you? How is Mercury slowing down affecting you? I can tell you, I've all that when I get the first few phone calls in the morning, immediately being like, am I not speaking clearly? Or is this, you know, whatever? And having to, whether it's a friend, a family member, a client, being like, and I'm like, no, it's really just, you know, Mercury's slowing down. Mercury
We're going to
is,
talk about that next week.
yeah, we're going to be getting deep into our Mercury retrograde next week. But, you know, just having an understanding of how things work by slowing down and taking a look at things. So then it also allows you to be like, is this coming from me? Is this an external force that's being imposed upon not just me, but the entire collective? Um, yeah, we will be going into this, but I think it's worth saying that when you're taught to just look at or perceive things in a linear manner, that, you know, that there's a beginning, a middle, and an end, and that's it, then you're cut off from it. That journey is over, as opposed to a cyclic nature, which is essentially what astrology really helps you, allows people, even of the most scientific minds, even of the most left brain minds, even of the most, you know, masculine, like, you know, perception, start to understand, oh, a coincidence of like two cycles coinciding with each other is something that really does like affect, you know, when two paths cross. And we know that they're going to cross paths again, maybe not in this lifetime, but for things like, you know, Mercury retrogrades and stuff like that, the observing and the understanding of the cyclic nature of things allows you to uh, even see the value of having a retrograde where something slows down and it retraces the steps through over which it had already been, in order to see things differently, in order to take a second look at them, maybe pick up on misinformation, etc., so that you are better informed and you have like a second chance to more consciously, more intentionally move forward. um, but if you come from a place where I'm just I just do. I don't know the why behind things. I'm just going to do my best and live, by my wits and just muscle my way through it. Um, that's, of course, you would see any kind of retrograde, but in particular, say a Mercury retrograde or a Mars retrograde as like the end of the universe. I can't slow down. I can't ask questions. I can't, there is no other way to see it. There's only, I just need to see an immediate like return on investment, or I just need to, definitely get this thing out there. And instead it's like, no, you can do everything up to the point of something stationing and going retrograde, and then like enjoy that walk back, like enjoy the slowdown, enjoy this kind of like rest and digest period and stuff like that. Because even in the physical body, that is where the muscles are built. It's not built when you're taxing your muscles or your brain or whatever to the limit. It's actually in the time that you allow yourself to rest and repair
and recover
and build newness, build a fortified, sense of whatever it is, whether it be insight, communication, ideas, like with a Mercury thing, or understanding of where your ego will has been coming from in terms of like a Mars retrograde, that kind of thing. So there's always so much more to learn. And I think when people practice rebuilding the temple of their own ritual, like why you're here, what rituals you do have or don't have in your day that you do intentionally and not intentionally. Are they ones that you do alone? Are they ones that you do with other people? Do you have a mix of those things? Even just for me, I have a hard time remembering to like invite people to the ritual. I'm like, oh wait, this isn't just for me, but that means that I have to actually intentionally set a time to, inviting people in an amount of time where they can actually join in is something that I need to incorporate in the ritual. But because I've had such a, tend to have a start-stop situation by trying to navigate this very, inner world, the very like energetic world, and then, the physical world that just needs tangible results and stuff like that. It's like, okay, how do I fix the interface for who I am and what I am and what it is that I'm doing here and what I'm, need to accomplish and with whom. So putting that time aside to be like, have I invited people in enough time to join in so that they can show up however they are? Or did I miss that this time?
Well, that's one of the questions I think it's important to bring up. Did you have a time in your life that you can kind of pinpoint where you learned how to switch off the autopilot? And if you did, what were some of the things that you started doing to resurrect the temple in your own life and bring the intention and the presence and the ritual back?
Well, I can definitely say I'm trying to think of further back, but I just know that in recent times, I actually had someone that I was really close to pass away, unfortunately. But before they did, we had had a separation. And in that separation, I was feeling the energy of my space be not how I wanted it to be. Like I had become very unconscious with how my physical space in my home was. And that I also had two roommates that were very unconscious, like when I would ask them to do things or like, I do this for a certain reason or way, that seemed very common sense to me, but not so much to them. And so when I realized that there was like non-compliance, I was realizing that like the space, there was like a discordant energy in my space. Like I had competing energies. I had energies that were almost consciously trying to like, they were just being so unconscious about things, that I kind of started to just incorporate more like consciousness. I started doing salt clearings. I started,
There we go.
I started really just, and it's so crazy how the second I started doing, like implementing those things, like whether just leaving rock salt out, putting rock salt in front of the door, consciously showing gratitude for, the space that I have, this wonderful home that I have, and just asking, for the grace and the energy and to continue to bring good energy and to clear out the energy that is stale, doesn't belong here, so that I can operate and be of assistance to others, and to creator and to all that kind of stuff from a really solid and clean and conscious space. And literally the roommates left, the BS left, like things that I didn't really, that were old contracts, fizzled away, things that I thought I was going to have to stay around for or just like gut out, all of a sudden the release valve, the exit, the emergency exit appeared because I started doing these things in my space. So, how about you? Is there a particular time in your life that you kind of got that awareness of implementing your energetic, know-how and ritualizing things to support it?
Absolutely. It was pretty much coincident with what I talked about last week with my spiritual reawakening. And I was still in my corporate job at that point, and we had a new team member come on, and we clashed big time. But not before she came on board. It was after, because there were some things that were not so truthful as far as the presentation of resume and all that stuff. We don't have to really get into that part, but I was starting to become energetically affected by my work situation, because you spend 40 plus hours a day with these people. And then I was starting to bring that home with me. And it was just, I was pretty much in a constant state of ick and frustration. And that's when I rediscovered the intuitive arts. So that's when I started listening to podcasts and educating myself, and kind of going back to relearning how to reconnect with spirit and intuition. And that's when I started meditating and learning about the energy centers that we have in our own bodies, our chakras, and doing things like sage cleansing and Palo Santo cleansing and lighting candles, and just starting to create that separation that I needed, because I had to go to work every day. I couldn't at that point in time. So protecting my own space, protecting my own energy before I went there, kind of like on the drive in. It could be as simple as just saying like, I protect my energy before I walk in the door to this other space that is really affecting me in a negative way at this point. So just like, bringing that back to, it's my responsibility. It's my responsibility to resurrect my own temple and to relearn how to bring myself back to center, so these things don't spill over and affect me so terribly. At that point, it was kind of dramatic. The switch, once I started, like just like you were saying, when you learned how to salt cleanse and all that, it worked wonders. And then eventually, after a couple of years, she left.
Amazing. So, but you had to do that for a couple of years. But was she not possibly even the invitation back into that?
Yes, and I see that the relationship was what I needed. It was the catalyst. It wasn't the best situation, but I needed that to come into my life to put me back on, the path that I'd gotten so far away from. Right. So just, this is what I kind of like, I think we should convey to people in this resurrection episode, is it doesn't have to be, something that takes forever, or, days and days. It could be like a snip in your day, like 2 seconds, just an affirmation, or like you were doing in the beginning, lighting the incense, or taking a salt bath or something like that. Just like learning how to do it for yourself.
Right.
Brings that back to the reconnection that can help other people.
Yeah. And I think another element of the resurrecting of the temple is a lot of going back to, and there's a lot of like talk in the space of whether you're talking about intuitive arts, whether you're talking about self, development, mental health space, all that kind of stuff, that there's a lot of the reparenting going on, in
Yes.
terms of especially people that are, just seeking help or realizing they're carrying elements that they don't need. But in terms of the reparenting, um, uh, and the need for to feel that the mother energy for the self to reparent and be like, I am whole and I am loved unconditionally. Whatever it is that I'm experiencing right now, I can identify it, I can feel it, I can let it move through me, and I can even ritualize something that will help me move it through, like completely, like, doing a little dance, like letting out a shout. I've seen two, and for people that are like, this is all woo, it's all whatever. It's like, no, it's energy. And you guys probably already have, even in your development, even if you were so unconscious as to how this stuff works. I saw two Instagram posts, which maybe I'll put into the link. And one of them was talking about the actual art post was called like energy magic that most kids are aware of until they forget. And one of them was
Oh,
blanket magic, and the fact that the use of blankets during our most vulnerable times, for instance, when we're sleeping or when we're bathing,
or
that-
meditating.
or meditating, all of those kind of things have been used forever as a way to protect the person from, if not the gaze, then just the energetic interference when you're in your vulnerable state. It's like literally used to protect the wearer while you're asleep. How many people had security blankets and carried that everywhere with them? Maybe they were trying to bring it to school with them because that was a new environment that they were scared to go into, and they really already knew energetically how significant and how much more secure they felt in themselves and in their being, just with the presence of their security blanket.
Mm.
Similar to, like, all kinds of stuff. I should really find the post and put it in the chat so people can see it. But I was just like, this is so, like, it's already been happening. Same thing with in terms of the office thing that you talk about. I'd have like a hype game, playlist to listen to go into the office as like a way of clearing my mind, clearing my space, making sure that I had the appropriate barriers to not have my energy messed with, to not feel like I had to go in there and be everything to everybody, just be like, this is my job, this is this. I'm getting, this is like my pregame, like warm up.
Yeah.
Sound is one of the most incredible movers and of energy. It's one of the best ways to attune yourself to stuff. And how many people, I mean, again, I live here in New York. So many people are just doing that exact same thing. They have this is my mental health music before I go into the office, So
Mm.
you don't even have to change that music to make it a meditation. You just need to be conscious that you already have ritualized this space and this, pre-game before you enter that, what can sometimes be a combative environment, or maybe it's really great, maybe but whatever it is, you've already kind of ritualized or incorporate these energetic practices that just by shifting your intention, or being more aware of your intention, being very conscious with your intention, you're already starting to resurrect the temple.
Exactly. Exactly. And one of the things too that I think is important, since we've touched on Mercury slowing down, and we'll talk about that next week, but it's just that Mercury is the magician. So
Mm,
in the tarot, like this is hermetic, wax hermetic. So we're
wax
obviously going to bring
hermetic.
Mercury at some point into every episode. It's Wednesday. So in honor of all that, the magician already has all the tools that he needs in that key in the tarot.
Indeed. Yeah.
So just know that too, if you're listening to this and this is all brand new to you, you already have what you need. You are a functioning person with a mind and a heart. And like we're talking about, all you have to do is just kind of flip the script, change your mindset, use your voice, use sound, use music, anything. We all kind of have those things at our disposal, like chanting. I think you said at one point, like you can just chant a little bit, or just like do like and change your whole vibration just by doing something as simple as that. So it's not like you have to go out and buy anything or do anything really in particular, or go like it. You have everything that you need within you at all times, and I think that brings us back to that, the Virgo archetype too, because being whole within oneself, remembering that you are the magician of your own life, you already have all the tools that you need. With Mercury slowing down, we have extra time now with that invitation to slow down, to have presence, to, like you said, retrace the steps. So it's a really good time to be talking about this, as we're in the pre-retrograde shadow period anyway, to accept the invitation.
Yes, to accept the invitation. Yeah, I'm in complete agreement. I don't know if I actually sent this into the chat or not, but I meant to send the Instagram, the link to this Instagram post, which I don't know, maybe people wouldn't be able to see it anyway, but it is definitely, I just wanted to read off to it says protection spells most kids do until they forget. They name familiar magic, so inanimate objects, your comfort, your teddy bear, that you direct love and attention to them, and that they store and amplify and then give back to you when you need it most. A blanket protection, again, blankets, towels, and tablecloths were considered powerful defenses against evil spirits since prehistory. And those are all things that, we tend to still use today because they cover and guard your body. It's not just, you don't just have a towel to dry off. You actually are doing it to like protect yourself.
After you bathed and cleansed yourself.
Exactly. And then friendship bracelets, rhymes as spells, feeding birds and animals, collecting figurines, toys of a specific animal or magical creature, especially one that you feel really like aligned with or, called to. You don't have to have a full education on, your spirit animal or totems to be like, I like frogs. Frogs really do it for me. There's something about frogs that I feel really energetically aligned with. Maybe you can just ritualize your going into the rabbit hole as to what frogs mean in all these different, energetic, historical, anthropological like contexts, and what they're used for, all that kind of stuff. And then again, obsessing with rocks, pebbles, and crystals, that kind of stuff. I love that.
Me.
What did he say? You?
That was me.
Oh, I was too. When I was younger, I used to spend all this time not playing on the playground, but there was like a place in the fields that was bare, didn't have any grass, and it had all these stone deposits. And so I would literally go and crack open stones, and the ones that I thought were really pretty or gorgeous, or I wanted to know what they were, I would like put them in a paper bag. And I repeated this process, I remember, for like 2 summers in particular, where to the point where the paper bag of like would fall, collapse under its own weight. It would like rip a hole in it and stuff. And then I'd have to be like, okay, well, which ones do I really want to keep with me, And that was just, just kind of what I did. I don't know. I never really thought like I would grow up and be a geologist, but there was something that I was called to in particular. And something else about the sound. I love that you said that you brought up chanting. And this is something that I think the reclamation of the voice in particular, so many of us are affected by being told over and over again to, be seen and not heard, or, that you have to, only speak when it's your turn, when you're holding the baton, when you're called on, like all that kind of stuff. And that actually really damages the flow of energy, because what we want to do is express ourselves as we feel so impelled. And if you stifle that impulse enough time, and especially if you do it over and over again during your development, then there is a disconnect. There's like a moment, or sometimes several moments, of self-censorship, of denying what you're actually feeling and thinking from inside. So that reclaiming of not only the voice as an intellectual tool, but as an energetic tool is so profound. And that brings me to this other Instagram post that I just saw yesterday that I couldn't even believe. I don't know if I can find exactly what it is, but it was talking about this in a second century Roman surgeon documenting at length how much the people who screamed and let out the pain verbally while in surgery, while they were going through a very painful treatment, the more that they screamed, the more that they let out the trauma, the pain of it in real time, not later, in real time, the sooner they recovered, because they're already starting the recovery process or the healing process as it was happening. And I was like, this is so incredible. And then the further the article also said that this has been confirmed by, it took them till 2017 to do a study where so that they could actually document it in real time with modern medicine. It was a medical study that was done in Italy. And it said, I'm trying to find the exact thing. It says a Roman surgeon wrote that patients who scream recover quicker, and modern hospitals still ignore why. The notes from a Roman surgeon named Attilus described a strange rule. The patient who cries returns to walking sooner. He noticed that men who suppressed screams during amputation took twice as long to heal as those who didn't. And for centuries, what sounded like superstition, now has documented neural physiological evidence by way of this 2017 study and other things that have been documented, but we didn't really piece them together, because if you don't care about the why and what the interconnectedness of all these things, everything just seems like incidental, anecdotal, things. But instead, in the 2017 study, the Italian researchers discovered that the vocalization during pain triggers the periaqueductal gray, a region that releases endorphins and modulates the immune response. So that the louder the cry, the stronger the this medicating, experience, and also the more it produce anti-inflammatory effect. So being able to already start the healing process while you're mid-surgery, while you're experiencing the pain. The same so with any kind of emotional pain that one is feeling, any kind of spiritual pain. But also, I personally love to let out a huge expletive here and there.
Oh yeah.
If I bump my toe or whatever. And, just imagine how many times you were said, don't say that, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, it actually, what some guy already knew or documented in, second century Rome, this 2017 research study said that the patients who stay silent show prolonged cortisol spikes, which slows tissue repair. Their nervous system stayed in a freeze mode, the same survival state soldiers and trauma victims experience. Suppression conserved composure, but delayed recovery in ways that are visible, that are tangible, that are documented, and it's a repeat process. So imagine how many of us just need to give ourselves the permission, go back and get that permission, go back and build that bridge between inner knowingness and how it becomes vocalized and tangible, truth, reality through our throat chakra, through what we say. And then that helps with helping you feel more comfortable with your outside experience, matching your inside experience, as well as, it becomes easier to say what you do and do what you say, and instead of having this a divergence of those things, which then makes you feel inauthentic, disempowered, whatever, you know?
Yeah. And that's using your throat chakra, using your voice, that's such a mercurial thing.
It's
So
such
that
a
is
material
part of
thing.
the magic as well. And one of the things, so thank you for bringing that post up, because that is something that I think is important to touch on. Because as I was reintegrating spirit and reconnecting with my own, one of the lessons, one whole podcast episode was all about remembering what you were into as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And there's tons of clues right there. I mean, the fact that we both shared, a love of stones and that kind of thing. Like,
Yeah.
my use of crystals during that point in time for things like healing my throat chakra and using my voice again, like doing something like this 7 years ago for me, I wouldn't have done it.
Mm.
I would get so choked up. I would be so nervous about just speaking. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's sort of something that was conditioning. And I went to Catholic school for 4 years. So just imagine how
Gotta do
much
it.
more the composure was enforced as far as, being in childhood, like, and that spilling over into adulthood, and just not talking, just kind of
Yeah.
being like totally mute. Even when I knew an answer to a question, just raising my hand would make me so nervous I wouldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So like not like coming on something like this, doing something like this, like I first started kind of practicing, forcing myself to do podcast interviews, to just like, and like, confront the fear, accept the initiation, push through it, and just talk.
Right.
So something like what you were saying, as far as just being told to not speak or suppressing a scream to release, like all of that you just said is so important, I think, too, to everything that we're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. And
Mm-hmm.
I was that kid and I didn't go to Catholic school, but I went to CCD, which is what public
I had
school
that
kids
too.
went to, right? To get your
Yeah.
Catholic catechism. And I was
Uh-huh.
that kid that was asking I would go from disinterest, just like I have to be here every Tuesday night or whatever, to when I actually started asking the questions of what I was interested in. Like, why is purple the color of healing and in the
Mm.
occult practices and enlightenment? But it's like, it's both the color of mourning and also the cultural, the purple, the expensive purple dye, being an indicator of royalty,
Royalty. Yeah.
culturally. So I was like, what can you describe that? How I'm my 11-year-old self needs someone to help me bridge this gap between these two things, and they just could not get over the word occult, practice, like,
Ugh.
in whatever. And they just had they backed away, like, sure that they were going to be struck by lightning, and then just continued on. And I was like, okay, so I guess I'm just going to have to find the bridge between those things for myself. I'll have to, if it really bothers me, or if I'm really interested in it, I am the mediator. I am whatever. It's so
There you
funny.
go.
This is bringing, and this is what everyone is, and this is why we had Saturn and Neptune going back into Pisces over that world axis. Guys, this world axis point is the point where we have got to, we get the opportunity to bring our connection to spirit, to everything that lives in us, into reality, into physical reality.
Yeah.
And the best way to do it is by
Yeah.
resurrecting the temple, starting with yourself. You are the
We're in a shit or
temple.
get off the pot kind of
We are
situation.
in such a shit or get off the pot moment. It's so crazy. That is giving me the fact that I like called my cousin the other day and being like, I cannot get over the fact that my intercepted chart ruler at Jupiter is at 22 degrees Pisces, and it's retrograde, and it's making it trines exactly my 22 degrees Scorpio part of fortune. And while I've been aware of that, the fact that the 22 degree is a Capricornian degree and it's a do or die degree is
Mm.
so, like, it's so immense. It feels, so that's another thing. When you feel something is so important that you start to shy away, you start to, like, you start to, uh, you know, freak out because it's too much. It's like a really great invitation to be like, this is important. I have a responsibility to rise to my ability in this situation. Got to shout out Maxine Taylor, astrologer, for that. That's how I reposition Saturn in my mind. It's not, responsibility sounds so cumbersome. It's my rise to ability that I'm focusing on. And how do I organize the structure of my life to be able to rise to my ability in this capacity? And then once you put that structure in place, you get to play, because you know that the ground isn't going to fall out from under you, that the ceiling isn't going to, cave in on you. It's really like those little small but mighty steps towards reframing something that feels like it's being done to you or being put upon you, versus this is something I'm being asked and encouraged to do because it's meeting a need within me. And how can I ritualize even just going from discomfort, uncertainty, paralysis, analysis paralysis.
Yes, been there so many times.
Right? I feel like I've been like living in it, but every time instead of being like, this is a challenge, I'm being handed karma, I'm being, this is something terrible, instead of being like, this is an invitation to get it done, to shit or get off the pot in a way that is specifically in alignment with me and what I'm here to do and with who I am at this moment in time, not 8 years ago, not even 8 minutes ago, right now, right here. Breathe it in, let it out, and let's, allow that. It's very Pisces North Node, that transit of, as I take that step, the step appears, across this invisible bridge from where I am to where I need to get to. It's faith, but it's not something, you can build and embody faith and knowingness in the moment. And using your natal chart to find out where faith lies and where it doesn't lie. Okay. That is a very, to me, it's very Pisces. It's a Piscean thing. It's also a Jupiter thing, which is the ancient ruler of Pisces. So if you want to know where your faith lies or where it's hidden possibly in your chart, if you have your, Pisces and or Jupiter intercepted, then, getting a chart reading is a really great way to find where it is, so that you can, that's really what I think is the most practical and applicable aspect of astrology, is getting people familiar with their working parts. What is it? What are the tools that you're working with? What is your orientation on the map?
Yeah. My whole thing is pretty much my driving force at all times, personally and in working with people, is the reintegration of spirit. Is kind of like, our subtitle of our show, and the topic of today, living in touch with your soul.
Yeah.
With intention. And having the courage to grow.
Yeah. And
accept the challenges like you're talking about, and get, more on the path of what you came here to do. Like, there's so many things, just not only through the natal chart and that lens, but everything that we offer at Astro Magistus, but also too, just everything we talked about today, just taking that moment, being present, inviting that even small, whatever it is, ritual back into life, is just a perfect starting point. And if you're already doing it, expanding on it, or going deeper, or getting a different type of reading or something like that, or working with somebody different. There's so much that is out there to tap into and help us tap into that, whether it's through astrology or another intuitive art or practice. It's just important to remember the connection.
Yeah, absolutely. Remember that you are a spiritual being having a physical experience, and finding out your why, not the capital W why. We don't need, I don't think our world needs any more existential freakouts. You know what I'm saying?
No.
That lead to more analysis paralysis. I think people need to get more in touch and be encouraged to find their own individual why. So, so that they can understand and accept that, my saying that life itself is a ritual, And the sooner you get hip to that, the soon you'll remember to make it your own, to
Exactly.
ritualize your own, to, bring your comfort blanket, bring your own incense, um,
Yes.
do the things that actually make you feel comfortable and empowered in that journey versus these prescribed methods that you may have been prescribed with little to no education or why behind may have never
Hmm.
resonated with you. You might be spending an extraneous amount of time, money, focused attention doing it. It might be something that like you just don't even need. Like,
Yeah.
why? It's just not something that you need to do. And again, like I loved how you mentioned for all the things that we offer at Astro Magistus is the coaching aspect, for people that have already had their natal chart done, maybe they've already had their draconic chart, maybe they've already, started understanding and accepting the working parts of their being, of their soul, of their physical interface, of their relational interface and all that kind of stuff. And they now they know, being offered somebody who that they can get a coaching session or even better, a series of coaching sessions so that they can, it's a safe space, it's an integrated space, it's a collaborative space for you to not only identify or communicate what you've self-identified as where you are in this process or another, but having being able to integrate them meaningfully. And I have to thank like my cousin for helping me get rid of all this stuff in my space now, so that having someone to hold your hand or at least just be there so that you stay on that one task of getting rid of what you don't need so that you have more space to accept and receive what it is that you do need, or to increase the space of these elements of yourself that have gone under acknowledged, unnourished,
Hmm.
underdeveloped. And you're like, well, now thank you for this first session was really meaningful and making sure I knew what my orientation is and in this, in my career journey or my relationship journey or, my past life, karmic transmutation journey. And now this week I want to, can we like spitball some ideas as
Yeah.
to,
Process, integrate,
yeah,
next
process,
steps. What do I do with all of
integrate.
this?
Right.
Yeah.
What is the best way for, me to do it? Like what does, based on based on my moon, I start with people's moon a lot of the times. The moon is the perfect place for, I think, to start someone's self-awareness, understanding, both in their natal chart as well as when they start to look at transits and what's happening in the world. My hard and fast rule about astrology is if you're not interested enough to get curious about the moon so that you can see how she works in conjunction to or in tandem with, in combination with or
Mhm.
relative to the sun, both internally as well as externally, then maybe pick up a different art. Maybe different,
Yeah.
maybe like I said, take a Myers-Briggs test, take a something. It will all eventually lead you back to astrology. It's just you're not ready to receive that right now. It might be too uncanny of a valley for you to cross right now, and that's
Yeah.
fine. Accept it. You don't need to like do it, but for those who are really interested in getting down to brass tacks about who it is that they are and who it is that they're not, or who it is that they used to be and feeling very differently now, and why that is and
Hmm.
why that may be. Um, you know, uh, Astro Magistus, all of all the amazing astrologers and coaches and stuff like that we have on there are really there to receive you where you are and like walk you through the process, walk you through the initiation, which is actually what the temple was there for. You were actually walking to be initiated into the mysteries of life, death, and rebirth, and become more powerful, embodied, empowered in that knowledge and that wisdom. So you can maximize your life ritual while you're here.
Yes, we've started resurrecting the temple for you.
We have, and thank you to all the people that came before that really set that out too. And I think Astromagistus is a really amazing, place where the concept of AI and stuff like that, and using technology and seeing how it can be utilized to help the human condition versus, when I feel like
Yeah.
every time I see a news clipping or an article or something, it's very like human against AI kind of thing. And it's like, wow, but we can actually when we ritualize it, when we do it with intention and in community with one another, then individuals as well as the collective really get to benefit
Yeah.
from and retrace our steps and pick up the lost knowledge of self and other and everything together, and in support. So
And
I
just
think,
giving the planets personalities,
oh yeah, I
like
love giving the planets personalities. That's so fun.
that's it makes it so relatable.
It does. The Venus V the other day I was like, man, yeah, people got to know that Venus is not just friendly. She's not your fun gal. Venus does not have cool girl. She's not a recovering cool girl. She knows exactly what she wants, and she's actually here to not people please. She's here to make sure you know what she stands for so that you don't throw at her anything that she's not here to magnetize to herself. And
Exactly.
I love that. I'm gonna have
Yeah.
to explore some more of the different planets personifications and stuff. So again, did you have something to add?
Yeah, well, I was going to say we have about 4 minutes left. I'd
Okay.
like to touch on this question because that's
Hmm.
kind of a good segue into what we're going to be talking about next week.
Okay.
So next week's episode will be all about the full moon, Mercury, the upcoming Mercury retrograde, as it happens just after our Wednesday show next week. Yes, we will have charts to look at. We will start doing visuals. We wanted to kind of get our feet wet with these first 2 episodes and really touch on the Hermetic arts and the intuitive arts and the importance of bringing spirit back into our daily lives.
And acknowledging where it's already existed, you just may not have thought of it. Even if,
Exactly.
if you were someone who had your favorite teddy bear or your security blanket, or you made and exchanged friendship bracelets, all that kind of stuff. Taking a shower before bed, using a towel after a shower, after ritually, washing yourself and your energy, not just your physical body. They're all connected.
Exactly.
So yeah. So yes, we will definitely have some charts and maybe even bring in some more, definitely bring in some more visual aspects to this. So even though I do love our cafe background and looking at my wonderful co-host, which funny enough, last week I couldn't do. We were like she was blocked on my screen. So
you did such a good job. I had no idea that
thank you.
that was happening until it was over.
It felt like a practice in non-local communication, like non-locality. I was like, as long as I can visualize the space that we're both in via the Cafe C background, I can know that we're in the same space together. I can still hear you, you can still hear me, and I know that we're like sharing the space, even though I didn't have a visual on the space. So maybe we'll talk about non-locality also later on in our wax hermetic ritual here.
That was definitely a very good example of just intuiting and relating through not visual ways. So that's definitely something we should touch on.
Yeah, because we actually have more than 5 senses, guys. And most of us don't even really maximize the 5 physical senses that we have, let alone these extensions of our sensory abilities. So can't wait to bring up more of those things in our exploration of all things intuitive, hermetic, spirit, divine feminine, and the reintegrating so that you don't have to just feel the cumbersome nothingness of gravity and Saturn.
Well, we will be back next week at 12 p.m. Eastern for
We
Wax Hermetic.
will.
And
And we
there
are
are
going
weekly
to-
shows going on every day of the week. And Elise, will you please ritualize us out?
Yes, I will make sure that we know that we are closing this here circle and space of episode 2 of Wax Hermetic here on Astro Magistus channel. Thank you again for joining us. I am Elise. That is Ursula. Please come and explore the Astro Magistus platform. And most importantly, please continue to investigate and explore your own self, your life as a ritual, and all the things that you liked when you were a child that you may have lost touch with. Maybe giving some of those a go back and get it. You'll maybe even have that much more extreme of an opportunity to do that with the upcoming Mercury retrograde. Yeah, I'm going to close the space with a sound, and we look forward to seeing you next time.